cursed by the old gods of Bethany. We are four souls destined to review the 1001
movies,
albums,
songs,
and TV shows you must consume before you die. Until then, we are the Immortals.
And this is episode 155.
Woo!
Wait. Okay, yeah.
Yep, it is.
All right, good deal.
It is, yeah.
155. It's divisible by 3. No, it's not.
It's not.
It's definitely not. It's incorrect. It's divisible by 5.
Ooh, that's true.
I mean, it ends in a 5, so it's divisible by 5. That's how math works.
Damn, you're right.
The Pokemon in question, if you're wondering, is Cyndaquil.
I was wondering, so thank you.
Is the fire starter from Generation 2.
Got it.
Which is lame because it's a super lame design and it just looks like a random rodent in 2 colors. It does, like, when it gets mad, it has a like, you know, like it has like a fire thing that it lets out that's like cool when it gets mad, but like the way it just like looks is stupid.
Can I just say, so one of the nice things about being up and walking around is I've been able to resume my Pokemon Go habit. And I just got a Pokemon that looks like it's obviously been inspired by like Lola Bunny from Space Jam.
Oh,
and
yeah.
deeply uncomfortable.
Yes,
it is.
Yes.
Like, it's not super Lola Bunny, but it is a little bit like, that's pretty close to a titty rabbit. Like, it's not.
Someone I saw on Twitter, there was a photo of like the Avengers Fortnite characters, and there was kind of a Lola Bunny character for that. I'm like, what is happening on this game that I don't play? I'm gonna try to find this.
Dun, dun. These are our stories.
The Criterion number 155 is a podcast movie we've done. Tokyo Olympiad.
Oh.
Peter, do you remember Tokyo Olympiad?
It was that really cool documentary about the Olympics in Tokyo.
Maybe?
Well, you obviously don't.
What happened?
The Olympics.
Okay, that rings a bell now.
Yeah. So that's that.
Yeah.
I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm JC.
And I'm Pedro.
And together we are the Immortals. And I found the Fortnite thing. Look at this weird thing on the left.
I love it, but I also hate it.
That is
what
weird.
What do you love of
Do
it?
you remember that this is an audible medium?
This is okay. There's this pink bear person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you text it to me, please?
Yep, I can. Yeah, we're the Immortals. We do things mostly be confused about Fortnite, which is very popular. And also we review the 1001 movies, the albums, songs, and TV shows one must consume before they die. And this week we're doing the 641st entries in all those lists. And they're the following things.
The movie is Stalker.
The album is All Hail the Queen by Queen Latifah.
The song is She Sells Sanctuary by The Cult.
And the TV show is The Lost Prince. But while we wait for JC to receive the text of these Fortnite characters...
This is fucked up.
Right?
I don't like it at all.
I like it. I think it's good.
Really?
Okay.
I like the frog guy.
Frogs are cool.
It's the lady bear.
I like the lady
The
bear.
lady bear.
What's wrong with the lady bear?
I don't know.
Actually, I don't like that she has boobs.
That's the part.
I didn't realize she had boobs.
That's
And I
the
don't
part.
like that
It's
she has
fine to have
boobs.
lady bear, but why does it have to be a human titty?
Why
lady
can't
bear?
it have, like, I don't know, bear boobs?
It looks
Well,
like
also,
Zero Suit Samus
gonna
is
put a
wearing
pin in that.
real fake.
But also,
bear
the bear has
mask.
crazy eyes. Like,
That's
real crazy eyes.
Is it
Yeah.
a human in a bear mask?
No.
Okay, so that's its head.
Yeah.
Okay,
From what I
But
understand.
it looks like it has human fingers.
very much so.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what's going on here. Fortnite. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very popular thing. Don't play it.
Why are we advertising for Fortnite?
They're free. I want to advertise them. They need.
Oh, I guess.
We advertise for a lot of shit.
That's true.
Yeah, and they have yet to pay us.
They haven't paid us shit.
Well,
I also haven't
totally true.
reached out to Fortnite saying, "Do you want to sponsor this podcast?"
I mean, Pokemon.
We're talking about Russian cinema this week. There's a real crossover.
We have dozens of listeners.
Dozens.
Bulbasaur!
We actually had our best month this month.
Look at
Oh.
that.
I know what. Wait.
We love all of you, especially
No,
those of you...
it's May, so April is our best month.
Especially those of you we don't know and have never heard of, because you clearly exist, because we know who listens to this, and there are more of you than that number of people.
That is fair, yeah.
Which means that there are people who we don't know out there who listen to us, presumably every week, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
hi. And it's lovely that you're with us.
That's true.
Isn't that great?
It is.
Yeah.
Like people do listen to us.
Yeah.
Welcome
Why? I don't know.
to the zone, bitch.
I almost just texted you all in the middle of the night, welcome to the zone, and I forgot. Anyway, what y'all watch or consume this week?
Started watching Game of Thrones from the very first episode.
Wow.
Perfect timing, since it's ending in a few weeks.
Well, if we continue at a good clip,
Mhm.
we'll catch up with the end. So we're sort of like...
Oh,
so,
wow.
something that's really fun is we just saw the episode where Arya meets Gendry for the very first time.
Oh, cute.
And
Yeah,
then you watch
awkward.
them fuck on Sunday.
Fucking awkward.
Yay.
Because...
Yeah.
Because Maisie Williams is like a small child.
Yeah, and we just
That's
had
weird.
a great scene, which I'm sure you guys know about if you've seen the show, but I won't spoil it right now.
Well, JC screamed it.
I mean, it's very important.
I
It's
did
very
spoil
important
it.
that Gendaria is canon. Also, probably Brainy. All of these pairings have names, by
Yes.
the way, if you're wondering.
When that did happen, I was like, somewhere is Sarah cheering?
Oh,
Like, we haven't talked about this, but it felt like your
JC, I
vibe.
cried. JC, I cried multiple times in that episode.
I-
Did Austin tell you? So, my girlfriend has never watched Game of Thrones. She's watched the pilot and the first 2 episodes of the season in a 15-minute video. That is like all the important parts that have happened in the last 6 years, and she also wept like during this episode.
I do like that she might be more caught up than people who've watched the whole time, because my dad texted me, so why is Bran mad at Jaime? 'Cause that's how the first episode ends of the season. I said, oh,
Who could forget that?
well, because
What
he
the
watched
fuck,
it
Austin's
8 years
dad?
ago.
I'm so sorry.
That's fair.
So if your girlfriend has seen 3 episodes, I should go, of course, this is the main dynamic between the two of them. Because it's one of the 10 scenes she's seen.
My dad was like, oh, we'll just watch a couple important episodes and catch up. And I was just like, I don't know.
Not how that works.
Can't.
As I was doing it, I was like, this is probably the most Googled thing right now. How old is Arya in season 8?
Oh, she's,
Immediate. 18.
yeah.
The actress,
Maisie
actress
Williams
bit
is
older.
The actress
The actress is older.
22.
The character, at least according to what Google said, is 18.
Sure.
I'll take it.
They were very fast and loose with the timelines in the end of the last couple seasons, so that's
Mhm.
fine. I don't really have a problem with it. Whatever. I mean, Gendry's not that much older than her, so
Fair.
at the worst, we're seeing high schoolers.
Well, it's
have
also
sex.
weird because Gendry was the actor who plays him was in the TV show Skins, which was about high schoolers having sex and whatnot.
Right.
With Arya, I did have that kind of feeling that it threw me off in later seasons of Buffy when they all started having sex. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
you all
that
were
makes sense.
children in my eyes in the beginning of the show, and some shows really kind of naturally progress. Okay, they are now sexual characters.
But,
This was pretty abrupt in the show.
oh no, it's very abrupt. But that's also part of the point, right?
Mhm.
That's why it's a good scene. Also, the last episode was perfect, and also pretty much all I've been consuming. If you're wondering, the media I'm consuming is Game of Thrones related.
You could probably tell listeners that we have only seen the first 2 episodes this season,
Yeah.
even though the 3rd episode has come out.
No, and I
now.
actually am interested from our listeners.
Stop being a time tyrant.
No.
Time
I just want to know,
So here's
if you're listening to this podcast and go man, they are not mentioning all those deaths at Winterfell.
So here's a question though that even when this podcast actually airs, I think that people will probably have not done this count, and I do think it's fascinating. Austin and I, in the weekend before you are listening to this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
will see Avengers Endgame on Friday night, Hamlet on Saturday, and Game of Thrones: The Battle of Winterfell on Sunday. And my question to the world is, which of these things will have the highest body count? The Hamlet's body count is 8, who died during the play.
Unless they play fast and loose with...
Yeah, no, so, okay, you gotta be careful about
It's
dead.
Chicago's Shakespeare. I don't think they're gonna go fuck it, Hamlet lives this time.
Yeah, and you gotta be clear about death, right?
Spoilers.
So, I mean people who die a final death, meaning zombies don't count for the purposes of Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
If somebody is... So if, we get zombie Ned Stark, and then he is killed, He doesn't count, right?
I'm gonna get zombie Ned Stark because his head never made it back to Winterfell.
Oh, actually, that's a really good
Wait,
point.
it didn't?
No, that's true. His head is on a pike. That's actually a very good point that I never thought of.
Oh no, I thought they gave all the bones back eventually. Which also, it's like, why are they keeping his body neck down for a few years and then give it all back?
I don't know.
That's kind of like what keeps happening in the real world, right? Like,
What?
like every once in a while, North Korea gave back like these remains and whatnot.
What are you talking about?
What Pedro's talking about? Or, like, why did they hold them for 2 years, then give the bones back? Like, that happens in like rivaling countries. It's weird and gross,
But he doesn't have a head.
We did just get past the scene as well where Asha, right, the wildling caretaker,
OSHA.
walks past the crypt and she's like, not going anywhere near there. It's like, why? They're all dead. Who cares? She's like, not where I'm from. And then I was like, oh shit, this might be a thing. Okay.
Oh yeah, crypts are not safe, as our listeners know.
How heavy are those lids?
You need to be like knocking. Like, can you let us out so we can fight you?
Of thrashing
I
zombies.
went to trivia last night, and one of the names was, "But the crypts aren't safe."
That's hilarious. That's really good.
But like, I think Hamlet, Avengers Endgame, and just that one episode of Game of Thrones that is airing on Sunday may have very similar body counts.
No.
Game of Thrones. That's what I've been watching.
Oh yeah, good show.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the complete rewatch we did before the season started. It was good.
I like the real-time rewatch.
I'm not loving the condensed Marvel rewatch that we're doing before Endgame. It's because like we were watching Game of Thrones, like we were doing like Marvel like every week or two, but then like, oh shit, we have to catch up with Game of Thrones, and then it was like, oh shit, Marvel's Endgame is in a week or two, so we've watched like one or two a night. That's not how you should watch these movies.
Nope.
It's rough. It's too similar, and not all of them were that good. It's been rough.
You know what I've been watching?
What?
There's this really cute YouTube series from the Bon Appetit people, where this professional pastry chef tries to make gourmet versions of things like Skittles and instant ramen, but like so that it looks just like the old thing, like the original thing, and like Cheetos. And it's delightful, and it's the exact opposite of Game of Thrones. So
everyone's still alive.
Everyone's still alive.
Only a few characters.
The same like attention to detail with food, I guess. But
okay, nice.
It's cute.
Is there anything you wanna highlight?
About things I've watched?
Mm-hmm.
It's just Game of Thrones.
It's just Game of Thrones.
Oh, I know what I watched. I watched Pet Sematary.
Oh wait, Pet Sematary was really good.
Yeah. I also saw the new one, which not bad at all. Actually, I liked it.
I didn't like that one.
Really?
No.
We saw Children of the Corn.
Joe the Corn.
Fantastic film.
Nope.
And what was the third
Christine.
one? Christine.
We were the most sober for Christine.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Pedro and I, and also Sarah and Darren, are trying to watch every Stephen King adaptation.
Ever?
Yeah. So there's, as of this moment,
future?
there's 101, I think. And they've
As
already
of
announced
the end of this year, there's going to be 150.
more than that. Well, they've already announced like two more they're going to start, like, they announced two more they're going to make this weekend. Like, they said, we're going to do Salem's Lot again.
Why not?
Sure.
He's a gold mine.
He's so rich.
Like, yeah, anyone partially affiliated with him in some piece of work is just...
Yeah.
Yeah, he lives in fucking Maine.
He doesn't mean, apparently has just like a very nice, like, you know, house with his family. He has kind of he wakes up at like 6, writes from like 7 till 3, spends time with his family, like every day, like 6 days a week is what he does. He does Instagram with his dog.
Aww.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about.
What else are you gonna do?
And then tweets angry things at Trump.
Yeah.
He's kind of living his best
Aw.
life. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind
And
of
he
his life.
still has a book or two a year. Like
That's crazy.
he puts
Yeah.
the work in.
Good for him.
And they're still good. Like I read like the latest one and it was my favorite because something about it I didn't love, but like it was still really good.
Yeah.
I remember in
He knows what he's
my
doing.
American lit in high school, our teacher was talking about, like, we had just done, like, Walden or something. And she's like, yeah, these guys are just, like, good historic American authors. Like, what, you think Stephen King is, like, at the same level as these guys? I'm like, dude's fucking prolific. And give him 100 years, I think his name will still be around.
We won't be, though, so.
We won't be.
Unless...
and neither will the Earth.
Yeah.
The human race may not be, but...
That's the premise of The Stand by Stephen King.
Spoilers?
It's not. It's really not. Yeah, humanity doesn't do well in the first chapter of The Stand.
Spoilers for the first chapter.
Virus.
Oh my God.
God damn it. Could have been a bacteria, could have been a fungus.
Nope.
You're just giving away all the details.
Of the first chapter of The Stand.
Still details.
It's 1,000 pages long. Anywho, now let's jump into the movie segment.
Yeah.
JC, what do we watch this week?
Stalker. So, Stalker, I want you to know it's taking all of my self-control not to scream it like you would scream Walker from that other movie.
What was it called? I'll Venmo you $1 right now if you don't know what it's called.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh no.
I don't remember what it's called. Fuck. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry at all. What does it start with?
P. Pedro, do you know what it is?
What movie?
Oh my God, guys.
What?
The recent podcast
Point
movie.
Blank?
There we go.
Point
Yep.
Blank.
Oh.
God, this is like a recent episode.
I didn't hear the
you know what's funny?
question,
When they said Walker, I the movie scenes popped in my head. Like I knew what movie you were talking about, but I assigned it to an older movie. Like I was like, is that Clute or like one of the other, nameless violent movies that we've watched?
Hard-boiled noir.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah. Anyway, so we
This is
watched
not that movie.
Oh my God, we watched Stalker, which is directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. This is a film from 1979. It is science fiction, Russian, Soviet art film, which has the premise that somewhere in Russia there is this place called the Zone, which just appeared one day. And everybody who goes into it doesn't come out. It's this very, mysterious place. And there is a person who is a stalker, who is sort of this, underground black market guide who will take people inside the Zone to go to this place called the Room, which is rumored to be this place where it will grant you, your innermost desire. And so it's about him taking a writer and a professor, and that's pretty much, they don't have names, into the Zone, into the Room. And that's my summary.
That's about
That was
it.
good.
Yeah.
That's very concise.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever been that concise before, honestly.
And that's impressive. This is a difficult to pin down sometimes 3-hour sci-fi film.
It's interesting.
It
Yeah,
is.
The plot is just what you described. I mean, what's interesting
Yes.
about it is everything else. Yeah.
Okay, we call this
Yeah.
a sci-fi film. There was no sci in this sci-fi film. I just gotta say.
There's
No.
only 5.
the only sci
That
is something at the
s-
very end.
obvious thing.
Yeah, that is real. Wait, so
I
are you
usually don't think
saying
of
that
Pedro as snobby, but that really was.
you don't? That was pretty snobby. Are you saying that it is more like a fantasy film, or that there were not supernatural elements, or
Because there were definitely supernatural elements.
For sure. I think, bringing it back to Stephen King, it kind of walks that fine line that the Gunslinger saga does, sort of, where there's science, but there's fantasy, and, the two mesh, because at some level, advanced enough science is magic, basically.
Mhm.
yeah?
But there was almost, no science itself in this. So it was a little too... I don't want to say meta, that's the wrong word.
It's much more like I kept saying, like, this reminds me of No Exit by Sartre, or, like, Waiting for Godot. It's very, like, it's so philosophical and stylized that I think it's hard to categorize its plot. I see what you mean. Like, it's not like it's like a... It's got the philosophical heft of something like 2001, and is using elements about the world being different than the world that we are in. Let me put it that way. To make philosophical points, but it's so stylized and so sparse in comparison to like a true a sort of, I don't know, a high sci-fi film or like a very sci-fi film that I mean I see what you mean.
Well, actually now think about it, I kind of think a lot about what Peter's saying, because like if you think about the idea of like movies where here's a reality and now something is in the center of it and society kind of changes from that, the two biggest ones in recent years, I mean, Annihilation is heavily
Annihilation is just Stalker in English.
Yes.
I mean, I love that movie, and I think it's an interesting play on what Stalker does, but it's just Stalker in English.
Or something even like District 9, where it's like, here's Johannesburg, and now there's an alien thing in the center, and things are going on, and it's kind of outside and inside the zone. Those are very, very clearly science fiction films, but because Stalker exists in such an abstract and obscure way, like, Stalker exists more in the unknown than like, because you can have theories that like aliens brought the zone or whatever kind of thing, which is then you go sci-fi. But because like there's something so like unbelievably creepy with this movie, because like when you have like mostly it's about the unknown, like you look into the abyss, then at least you can go, that is the abyss.
Yeah.
Whereas this like when you watch the cart leave when they're in the zone and the cart is leaving back, and you watch the whole thing of it leaving. And you're now staring at what is like the purest form of the zone, and you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
The unknown remains unknown no matter how long you stare at it, and it's so like unsettling.
I mean, there's clearly like advanced technology or just technology around, and the fact that it's all like decayed and broken and just messed up, like it's there, but it's not a specific plot interaction.
Yeah,
I think like the zone is almost sort of like its own character.
Yeah.
And the zone was my favorite character. Because like the concept of the zone was very interesting, and these three dudes sort of like caterwauling philosophical about their lives was not as interesting to me.
I love it.
But
I care for that kind of
like
stuff.
some of it was, but I think I'm wondering, so a thing that I really liked like the concept of the zone, and like there's so much like mood in this movie and like tone and so many cool things that are happening with like the things you're really like sort of viscerally feeling in your skin when you watch it.
Yeah.
But the fucking pace of this movie, I could not get over it.
Oh, like that it was too slow?
It was so slow.
And
it was building, and then there were like a couple parts where it went like I felt like there was a little bit of momentum happening, and there were some parts that I thought were really they were quite cool. Like I really liked the part where they have to walk through like the meat grinder area, and there's that part where like it zooms in on a hand in the wall, and like the very end of the movie I quite liked, like, but like there's just and I think it's probably intended to be this way, that we are just sort of taking like the longest way possible to get to anything happening. And I think as a person who I need like action, and I think I'm more compelled by like watching characters do stuff than listening to characters talk. That was harder for me, I think.
Tarkovsky has an answer for you, which is like my
Great.
favorite thing I've read about this movie. So this movie is funded by the Russian government because
the Soviet
government.
That is why it says Soviet in the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, and they of course gave feedback on all films that they funded, and their feedback to Tarkovsky was that this film was slow and boring. To which Tarkovsky's response was, "What it should do is move even slower, so that people who realize that they're in the wrong theater and don't like this movie can leave before anything interesting happens."
Oh my God!
Like so, this is my third time watching this movie. And I love it a lot. My first time watching, everything before the zone was like really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because like at this point I had seen Solaris, which I think is even better than this movie. And maybe one other film of his. Maybe it was probably Andrei Rublev, which we did for the podcast back in episode.
That movie was too slow.
72.
Oh God.
But this like the second viewing, because you just don't know what the film is doing in that first part because they're like essentially not telling you.
Right.
That moved by so much faster for me. It's like every time I've watched it now, it actually kind of flies by in a way that I was not expecting. Whereas something like Andrei Rublev, which I've now seen 3 times, that movie still is very slow.
That movie is.
I was actually going to compare this to, weirdly, Seven Samurai. And what I'm about to say might be blasphemous.
Huh.
The first time, I remember vividly the first time watching that film. And although I loved it, I never thought it was slow, but I did think it was long. I felt that it was long. Not slow or boring, but long. I could feel the length. If I watch it today, movie couldn't be by. Like, it's just, what? 3 hours? What are you talking about? It was like, it takes a half hour to tell the story. But no, not really.
No, we watched it together.
We did.
When you were on Let's Take Five for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, when like it hits intermission,
we're just like, wait, what?
Come on.
What? Already? But I got the same sort of this feels long feeling, but the fact that there are so many meandering shots and moments, coupled with the science never came in specifically. I was always kind of expecting something, like when they throw the nut, I was kind of expecting, like, why doesn't there explode or something? Those two things put together made it feel slower than it probably is once you've been exposed to it.
I don't even think it felt... I don't think I even needed an explosion. Like, I think it was just sort of like... I don't know. I'm still sort of like settling into how I felt about like how the movie moved. Because I did like it and I wasn't bored. I was just sort of lost. Like, and maybe not even in a bad way. And maybe that's how I was supposed to feel.
Maybe it's meta, because there's no direct route.
I was really just trying to figure out like where, and I kept thinking about Annihilation and how much I like that book and that movie and just how different that is in terms of dealing with the unknown. And I think obviously like the premise of Stalker is definitely like in the roots of Annihilation, but the way the characters interact with the environment is totally different. Like, they're very different stories to me.
Well, a question I want to kind of ask the three of you with your first viewing, like, did you guys find it creepy?
A little bit. There were times when I did, like when they were actually in the tunnels.
Maybe.
I was more creeped out, but I don't know if I was. No.
Well, when they went to that, like, the tunnel.
Yeah.
That was definitely more creepy.
There's a mood to this movie that is, like, this movie is very Soviet, in that, like, it gets at the same kind of, like, it got to me in the same way that, like, there's a certain kind of horror that's all about abandoned buildings and, like, decrepit industrial structures. At some point I will talk about Chernobyl in this movie because I find that really bonkers. Also, I'm, like, obsessed with Chernobyl, which I think has come up before.
Because the thing's coming
there's a new HBO series coming out about
it.
That's why
we brought it up recently.
Actually, well, now that we're doing this, I think because it is the mood of it. Like, so it is deeply creepy to me that this movie came out before the Chernobyl event because it reads like a reaction to it. Yeah. And the fact that it's not is creepily, like, prescient.
Yeah.
So, like, I think the thing that, like, is creepy about it is the feeling of empty space that was once inhabited and was once used and has now been abandoned, and you don't know why. That there's this feeling of, like, people are not supposed to be here, but but people were once here. Like,
there was a struggle here.
Right, because there are structures that exist, and we don't know why, and there's something very disturbing about that.
I mean, we straight up saw a military truck with the machine gun still there, with 2 corpses still manning the gun. We don't know
and that
why
shot
they're still
is
there.
Crazy,
right?
That he does this, like, zoom in through the window
Yep.
of the truck over the head of the guy with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not suspense exactly, but it's just that it is this, you know what it is? It's a feeling of wrongness.
Mm-hmm.
That there's something, and I think that it's really highlighted when the movie switches into color. There's a vividness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Annihilation plays with this, I think, by making what's inside the Annihilation Zone, like, more lush and brighter and
Mm-hmm.
more alive than, like, it should be, and you get this
Mhm.
creepy feeling
Right.
of, like, overgrowth. And Tarkovsky does the same thing, I think, by just putting it in color. You almost feel like it's like, wait, like, I don't think this world is supposed to be in color.
Mhm.
Like, you know, like...
Well, he
something
uses
is-
the very natural, like, dark green, gray, that
Right.
sort of thing. He doesn't, like, artificially
right, but
tint it.
but just by doing the first part in sepia,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like... And that world seems, I mean, not great, but, like, functional. Like, there's a bar. They talk about prohibition. You know, like... And then
Yeah.
it's like something is up with this zone. And I think, like, it... So, like, the reason that the Chernobyl stuff is crazy to me is because, like, some of the stuff that he... Like, I mean, I actually think, like, one of the weird things about the movie that really makes it pop for me in English is that the word zone is the same in English and Russian. They keep saying the word zone. So, like, you're listening to the Russian, and every time they say that, it, like, hits you
Mhm.
because it's the only word that you can understand in what they're saying, which is interesting. But, like, Chernobyl is that, right? Like, it is... There's a science fiction writer who refers to areas like the area around Chernobyl as involuntary parks, which is a, like, beautiful and weird concept. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same as the demilitarized zone in
Mhm.
between North and South Korea is another one. Like, places that have experienced a return to nature for reasons that are like by default because human actions have made them uninhabitable.
Mhm.
And, like, what's crazy is that, like, Chernobyl now has a lot of the features of the zone to the point where, like, certainly the Ukrainians have recognized the parallels to this movie. And in fact, people who give guides, give tours inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which is what it's called the exclusion zone, call themselves stalkers.
Really?
Yes.
That's fun.
They use the same
Yeah.
word that is the title of this movie.
Terrifying yet amusing.
Yeah, I mean, and so, like, yeah, so yeah, it's really crazy that this movie is from before Chernobyl. It, like, honestly, like, that when I realized that in the middle of the movie, it genuinely creeped me out because I just assumed that this was a Chernobyl reference.
Chernobyl was 89?
86, and this movie came out in 79.
Yeah.
But I think that it is telling in that, like, what Tarkovsky is talking about is what led to Chernobyl, right? He's in these, like, decaying Soviet structures that were built too big and then abandoned, and, like, it's all like a sort of abandoned, unmanned, unregulated or space, and that there's this, like, fundamental danger there, and, like, the 80s in the Soviet Union is sort of about that. Like, as the empire slowly crumbles, you get all of these things that are, like, not quite working or are supposed to be working in a certain way and don't. And ultimately, like, Chernobyl is a story about, like, it's an understaffed space that eventually leads to, like, this huge disaster. So it's a weird. I'm sorry, I've gone on about this for a long time, but I mean, I'm not the only person who's made this reference. There's a video game called Stalker that is also
Yes,
based on
I
Chernobyl.
noticed that. I was
like,
on
this
YouTube
is
and there were, like, a bunch of things of it, and I meant to watch one, but did not.
It is deeply weird.
Yeah.
It's a movie that, to me, like, is just so creepy. Because, like, Solaris is another sci-fi film we made that's very creepy for different reasons. But this one just, like, again, it's like the staring and just the understanding that this is off in a way that just doesn't, like, show you in the same kind of way that some of the other movies would. Like, it doesn't do a big special effects thing where, like, the world moves. It's just very quiet things where, like, they come out the other end and the guy is there. And he goes, "Thanks for coming back for me." And they go, "We didn't." It's these very kind of practical things. And even, like, before that begins, like, I noticed, like, when they're at the bar and they're, like, deciding three of them to do this, It's a long scene where they're all like on the three kind of ends of the small circle, but the camera never stops moving towards them. It's like a 3-4 minute shot of the camera just slowly getting closer and closer till once they decide to do it, you're now like, all of them are complete in the frame only.
So I was thinking about this. I think part of the reason the movie reads so strangely and is so affecting to me is because the camera or the person behind the camera feels like a character because it's like between Tarkovsky's crazy shot work where he's constantly doing these like zoom ins and these interesting angles. But then at the end of the movie ends with a direct to camera interview with like monologue from the wife. And it's like, wait, like who is she talking to? And I think like that's where it's like you feel like when as like I felt like I was like you got the feeling that the characters were being watched because you were watching them, but like you were like the camera was like there. Like there was someone moving it.
But you know it's not the government because they will not get within.
And that's like
how creepy was that? Like when they're like being like going past the army, like under attack, under attack.
Oh, I thought that was
and
awesome.
then the army stops.
Yeah.
It's like,
and that's like that's the thing. Like it gets at something. Well, and then like I think the philosophical part of this is like why it reminds me so much of Sartre and Beckett is about like it's such a well put together analogy for the fears of getting close to something as terrifying as getting everything we want. Like that we are like that is like that the idea that there's a philosophical realm into which we are afraid to tread, and that and the dangers that come from going there. I love it. It's awesome. And like I love it. I think everything about the metaphor works. Like I love the idea, like at the end, all of this stuff about what being a stalker does to you, what being the person who brings people close to this forbidden concept of actually being able to have what we want. Is that like fundamentally changes like that is somehow wrong and like changes who you are and the children you bear, that it is like a deeply like corrosive kind of power. I mean, like it's just so friggin' cool, and the dialogue is like it reminded me so much of Waiting for Godot, which is weird because it like all of the characters talk to each other in like they don't have conversations with each other. They have conversations with their own subconscious that other people are present for. And they're never like, and like the movie doesn't try and make them into, there are no characters in this movie. Like they don't have names. They're not
the stalker, the professor,
like they are archetypes. And like, I'm glad that Tarkovsky, the book it's based on apparently has characters. I'm glad that Tarkovsky was like, nah, like fuck that. I'm not even going to try and pretend that like, these are people. Like, that's not what this movie is about. This movie is about, like, the writer and the professor and whether artists or scientists, like, are appropriately prepared for truth. Like, I'm just doing that. Like, so I am super for that because I will totally watch a sleepy 2.5 hour, like, interesting philosophical like meditation on the meaning of humanity, and that's I'm here for that.
And I mean, I was so drawn into the world, but especially the philosophy, the more once they were in there, because you have the stalker who is the experienced guy. It's not his first trip doing this, and like that guy's performance. I mean, that guy is just like anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, what if Indiana Jones hated his job so much?
That's a really good way to put it.
And you kind of have this, and you have the writer and the professor being like very initially cynical about kind of what's going on, and having with the assumption that they know more than the stalker does, and the stalker has now brought them into this world that fundamentally looks and acts different. But once you kind of get to the room itself, and I guess spoiler, I think for the rest of this segment, it's probably like 5 minutes or so.
Sure.
Once you kind of get this like reveal of like really kind of why they're all there in a different kind of way, where the professor goes, I have a bomb, I'm going to blow it up. is such a like new understanding of the professor deciding that this kind of essentially elitism of like, I don't trust the zone or humanity to decide who gets to be satisfied. I have to destroy it myself, is such a like complicated concept. And like,
there's so much to unpack. Like, I feel like even just like dealing with the concepts of this movie, I have like 5 different things I want to read everything that anyone has ever written about this movie. Like,
and apparently there's an amazing book called like From a Book to the Screen of like the long saga of like this novel and what Tarkovsky has done to it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a beautiful movie. I am fascinated in the way it was made. I could give less. I want to read like every philosopher's take on the philosophy that's happening here, because it's very, very good. It's not just like cribbed from like it's not like it's just cribbed from like some existing source. Like, he's doing something novel here, and I really want to read more about it.
I had a theory this time that I don't think completely works, but I had the thought, and I haven't like seen enough contradiction yet, of what if the Stalker actually did get something he desired, and that his family was going to be okay. And that's part of the reason why his daughter can move a glass across the table.
That's how I read. So the way I read the end of the movie is that his daughter may live in the zone. She is in color. We do not ever see her in black and white.
That's true.
And that his heart's desire may have been related to his daughter, and now she is trapped there. And that.
Oh, she is physically in the zone.
She's
not she's like one with the zone.
Physically in the zone. I mean, we never see her in black and white. We only see her in color.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie. And like, yeah, I definitely think that is a. I mean, Tarkovsky apparently, like, there is no right answer. Like,
the last 5 minutes is like such a curveball.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, but like Tarkovsky in interviews entertained everything from like a full sci-fi alien related explanation to like he has suggested in interviews when asked that like a plausible interpretation is the zone is not real and the Stalker made it up, and that everything that you see is a manipulation. So like he's which is why I think it's such an interesting movie philosophically, that it's not a puzzle to solve. It's a meditation on the meaning of reality.
And something so great about the way the movie ends too is because, like, it's hinted at earlier in the film that like the way back isn't as hard as the way there.
Yeah.
So when they just like are back, like pretty abruptly, you still don't feel like you've returned home, even though you're back in sepia. You still just kind of feel eerie and off, partly because these 3 guys are not like, hooray, I found the pot of gold in the rainbow kind of thing.
Right.
It just kind of still feels like now we are in a less satisfying version of the zone, and we're like, it, like visually at least. I mean, they're not like in danger if they walk in the wrong room kind of thing. But it's just something so like the experience changed them and now changed the audience, and it's not great, or is it? Mostly not.
So good.
What do you think of the philosophy, Pedro? Did you side with the professor or writer or Stalker?
So it depends. If it really is a room that gives you everything, a little bit on the professor side, this should not be a thing that humans have access to.
We're bad at that. Yeah.
Especially given people who are evil. So I kind of liked that, but for that to be the case, I have to believe that the room is there, and I don't know if I do. I don't know. But then why would they have a psychic daughter?
Right. That's why the last 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes of this movie have got to be one of the great, like, last 5 minutes.
Could she have gone into the room?
And who knows, right?
Well, there's one more weird thing, right?
I think I was really intrigued by this, like, that, like, she is sort of, like, the future, like, sort of this, like, product of, like, when these 2 realms touch, like, what can happen, and how she's, like, born without legs, but she can move stuff, and, like, what, I don't know, that was really intriguing for me. Like, the last 5 minutes of this movie were the most intriguing to me, probably, of the entire movie.
But then, like, also they have a very prominent shot of the nuclear plant. It's right there.
Yeah.
Could they be mutants? Could there have been a terrible accident?
A terrible accident, like
Chernobyl.
a nuclear meltdown of a nuclear power plant that didn't melt down for another 7 years, and he didn't know that was going to happen. Sorry, I still find that, like, I find this movie genuinely eerie.
Or did he cause it to happen because he went to the room?
Straight up, like, I find that, like, if I'm not saying time travel was real, but if time travel is real, Tarkovsky traveled back in time after Chernobyl happened and made this movie. I'm just saying.
What a dick move.
I mean, it's just like...
at least he's not using his power irresponsibly, and that could, like, destroy humankind. He's the professor.
Dick move. I remember another creepy moment I want to say before we kind of wrap this up.
Yeah.
The phone ringing.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
It's because it's like the only, once you've been in the zone, it's like the only human, like it's the only technology that like functions. And
you kind of like don't, like, it just becomes like a quick thing. You're like, oh, wait a second.
Well, I forget now. Who was the first person on the line? Like when it rang and he picked up. Who was on the other side?
I thought it was like his office, right?
No, so like he picks it up and all he says is, "What? No, this isn't the clinic," and he hangs it up.
Yeah.
And then he uses it again to call out, which is both very funny. And this is another thing I'll say about this movie. Some of the stuff that happens, some of the dialogue in this movie is really funny. Like, every once in a while, well, not really funny, like, dryly funny. But, like, that's a moment that it's like, that's like a Monty Python thing to do, to answer a random ringing phone in, like, a horrible sci-fi wasteland, and hear someone on the phone be like, is this the clinic? And just go, no, it isn't, and hang up. That's a crazy thing to do.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Any final thoughts on Stalker? JC? Beta?
I definitely think I need to watch it again.
It's so cool.
Like, it's not grounded enough yet because it's that, like, big and not dense, but also dense
for sure
of a movie.
I'm really glad I've seen it 3 times, and I'm going to see it more times in my life.
It's really
not
cool.
this weekend, but like, yeah, no, it's good. JC, what do you give it?
I give it a 3.8.
All right, I'm going to give it a 4.9.
Woo! I'm going to give it a 4.7.
I'll sit happily at 4.2.
Cool.
All right. That is Stalker. It's currently available on the Criterion channel. But also, if you want to hear another half hour of talking about it, Let's Take 5 did it on episode 75 when we did our Tarkovsky 5.
Cool.
So, check out more of that. Eric adores Stalker. And
Was it his pick?
Yeah, he picked Tarkovsky. I think he's still, like, when we decided to rank all the ones we've done, Stalker was in his maybe top 5 films we covered on the podcast.
It's a very cool movie.
He's a big fan. But now it's time for the album segment. Sarah, what do we listen to?
The album is All Hail the Queen by Queen Latifah.
Who said that the ladies couldn't make it? You must be blind. If you don't believe, well, here, listen to this rhyme. Ladies first, there's no time to rehearse. I'm divine and my mind expands throughout the universe. A female rapper with a message to send. The Queen Latifah is a perfect specimen.
My sister, can I get some?
Sure, Moni Love, grab the mic and get dumb.
Yo, praise me not for being simply what I am.
All Hail the Queen by Queen Latifah is Queen Latifah's debut album. It came out in 1989. At the very beginning of Queen Latifah's interesting and varied career. It was very popular, did great, peaked at number 6 on the Billboard charts. It includes probably the hit song is Ladies First, which is a great song. Queen Latifah's awesome. She she's great. This is a album that has a lot of interesting collaborations with a lot of interesting rap artists at the time. It's got really cool samples. Primarily she's part of a DJ collective, which is called Flavortown.
Can I just do a shout out to
Flavor
Queen Latifah is really great, and also her performance in the movie Chicago as Matron Mama Morton is amazing.
Yeah.
That's when I first saw her.
So I think Queen Latifah is really interesting. So she's a DJ. She's a female DJ in 1989, which is very unusual. In a New Jersey-based group called Flavor Unit, not group, like a collective of artists, like group of artists. She samples all sorts of interesting shit, including a lot of she samples a lot of African beats, a lot of Jamaican beats in this. She has a Ladies First samples, has a collaboration with Moni Love, who's British, which was like a very unusual sound to hear in hip hop at the time. So it's just like really interesting, and for me, I love this album. Every song is different. Every song, you're like, oh, now we're like sampling like old Motown songs, and now we're doing Jamaican beats, and now here's this British girl, and like it's all super pro woman. It's all about how Queen Latifah is the best, and I really liked this. I really liked this album. She has a crazy career. Like, I think that, like, in many ways now her acting career is actually, like, eclipsed her music career.
Oh, by a lot.
But, like, her music career is where she started, and, like, this is really good. I was surprised, because I don't think I've ever... I'd heard of, Ladies First, I'd, like, heard played before. I knew it was a Queen Latifah song, but, like, this is it's a really cool album. Like, her samples are, like, bizarre and all over the place, and I love them.
It's always funny when, like, I don't know which is, like, the famous thing about a thing. Like, I remember, like, when I watched, like, 5 Easy Pieces, the Jack Nicholson movie, and the iconic scene came up, but I didn't know it was iconic. I'm like, man.
That's really funny.
Him ordering the food scene. Wonder if people have seen this.
And it's like, oh,
wow. People were... Like, so I didn't know that Ladies First was the most popular on this song, this album. Because, like, by far, that is the song that I connected to the most. And I liked it so much more than other songs. I was wondering more if I'm more of a Moni Love fan than
it's a great
Queen
song.
Latifah. Because I was a bit underwhelmed by this one. Even going with a bit of the style changes, I actually found it to be rather, like, too familiar with every single song. And sometimes I found the lyrics a little, like, cringeworthy.
Oh, I think they're great.
I looked at this one because I was listening to it and had, like, make sure I heard it right. It was from Evil That Men Do, which, I mean, men are the worst. This should be an easy one. This is a, let's throw up there, but there's this lyric here that says, I just scrolled right past it. Tell me, don't you think it's a shame when someone can put a quarter in a video game? When a homeless person approaches you on the street, you don't treat him the same. I'm like, yeah, I mean, okay.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I get your point. Like, she is very literal. Like, she says exactly what she intends to say. I think she's great because she does that, which is, like, a hip-hop thing, but also, like, her music choices are really interesting in the way that she, like, does that. But definitely, like, I also think that, like, she, you know, like, when she raps pretty slowly, so you can actually hear everything she's saying, which is great. But it also...
It's too slow for me.
...reinforces that, you know, sometimes lyrics are dumb. Like, song lyrics, this is not a rap thing. Like, lyrics are dumb sometimes. Oh, yeah. But no, it's interesting, because you said you loved Missy Elliott. And
I liked it a lot more than this.
And I liked this a lot more than Missy Elliott. And they are, like, sort of two... They're very different moods for R&B. I am, like, so here, which is very, like... Queen Latifah is very, like, I don't need no man. Like, I mean, literally, like, the cover of this album is her standing in, like, a really cool headdress with the name of the album around, like, a map of Africa. Like, this is very, like, African queen, I don't need your shit. And Missy Elliott is doing, like, a very different thing, which is much more of, like, a part of mainstream hip-hop R&B. And, like, they have very different moods. Like, so it's interesting that neither of us know very much in any reasonable way. Like, we are both very, very white guys. And
I've seen it in a lot of movies.
Yeah, and we are not reasonable people to be talking about rap, R&B, or hip hop. But it is interesting to me that as two, like, total neophytes, we go different ways on those two albums.
We're both doing poorly, but I will always be worst because this is also a feminist.
No, you're the bad guy.
So I'm one step behind. We're both not great,
story. Yeah.
but I definitely know less. And I've always liked Queen Latifah because, like JC mentioned, I first saw her in Chicago, which is a wonderful performance. I've seen her a number of other things, including the terrible movie Bringing Down the House, which I also saw.
Which is an early Queen Latifah.
Yeah, but it was like her like becoming like a lead, and she did like a more like really cool thing. She always kind of works better as a supporting, I think, than
she's in Girls Trip. She's super fun in Girls Trip.
It's true. She's good in the Barbershop franchise.
Yep.
She was in a
She's
weird.
a delight.
A weird movie called Last Chance. But yeah, she's really good. And I wish I kind of had footage of her performing these songs. I just heard the album proper. 'Cause I think I bet I would like it more.
That's true. I've never seen her perform, and I bet she's a badass. I bet she's really, really cool.
So yeah, it made it a bit disappointing for me because I was looking forward to it. But
yeah,
it's not that she's not talented. It just wasn't a very dynamic album for me.
Cool. Well, I thought it was great, and you're wrong. 4.5.
3.5.
All right. Well, that's easy enough.
All right, that is All Hail the Queen by Queen Latifah.
Yep.
Now it's time for something different. What is the song this week?
Sure.
This week we listened to She Sells Sanctuary by The Cult. She Sells Sanctuary is a song by The Cult. Came out in 1985. The Cult is a British band that
Shocker.
does things.
This at least is a famous British band.
They
I mean, they are.
Cult
They-
is famous.
Uh,
Fine.
To be fair, I did not recognize the band name or the song name, but I've heard this song a million times.
Really?
First place I heard it, I think, Layer Cake.
Okay.
It's in Layer Cake, and I've listened to that soundtrack many times because Layer Cake has a great mix of music.
I gotta rewatch Layer Cake, probably with you.
I've never
I
seen
know,
Layer
right?
Cake, so
You know what Layer Cake is?
It's pretty good.
not really.
It kind of has like it is this like starting point because it's Matthew Vaughn's first film, and he went on to do he directed after he did Stardust, but he did the Kick-Ass films, the X-Men First Class. Like the guy's like really cool like director, but also it starred this up and coming actor named Daniel Craig.
Oh,
And this movie
Basically
right.
playing the British Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Weird.
And he's in that, and he's
Sort of.
great. And like this movie basically got him Bond because
interesting.
he's a complete badass at it.
Yep.
And I remember when they announced him, there's so many like dumb articles going like, a blonde Bond, how's this gonna work? I'm like,
Oh my God,
guys,
yeah.
I saw Layer Cake. We're fine.
It's gonna be okay.
We're really okay.
Yeah, and they were right.
God, remember when that were people's problems?
Yeah,
Blonde
remember
That
Bond.
was great. That was fun.
That was a beautiful time when that was our biggest stressor.
I know.
I mean, Fleming spent
No.
so many pages describing Bond in detail. I can understand.
No.
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 Doesn't matter. He did great. He's fine.
So you heard this in the Layer Cake.
So yes. Also, this song is featured in later seasons many times in Top Gear. You have
Interesting.
definitely heard this in Top Gear
That's really funny.
many times.
That is so funny because like
But like on the one hand, like it did sound kind of familiar, and maybe that's why. On the other hand, of course, this fucking song is in Top Gear,
Yeah.
and also that makes me hate it more.
Well, because like this song is it's good. It's a lot of fun, but there's
It's
not
fine.
it's very even. So like it can be in the background of anything and be fun.
That's fair.
So
that makes sense.
it's very good soundtrack material for here's a fun shot of a car doing tricks, or here's someone rocking out in a club after doing some cocaine.
That makes a lot of sense to me. But that is true about this song.
it's such easy listening.
It really is. It's in a few other things. Opening credits of Buffy, the movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
A movie.
Yeah, you almost like broke her brain for a second.
No, I was like, that's not. No, you didn't break my brain. I was just going to tell you were wrong.
1992 film. I had to make sure I clicked the link to
That movie is not very good.
to be sure, but it's in there. It's in. I'm just gonna read
It's
all
really
of these.
funny.
Gran Turismo 3. BMX something. It's in Guitar Hero Aerosmith. It's in Rock Band.
Why isn't Guitar Hero Aerosmith?
Free Enterprise.
It is in Rock Band. I've played
That's
this
my
song
boy.
in Rock Band when I was in college and needed to get good at Rock Band.
Why is it in Guitar Hero Aerosmith?
Oh, maybe they did a cover.
Did a bunch of
Probably Aerosmith's probably fucking expensive, and this is
that's
probably
true,
not as
actually.
expensive.
Oh no, Aerosmith is fucking expensive, but Guitar Hero Aerosmith is actually all Aerosmith.
Does anyone remember the 2012
Did
Super Bowl?
Steven Tyler write this song? Like what?
No, they probably. I mean,
this
you're
is-
probably right. They probably did a cover.
Yeah, probably a cover.
okay.
Or maybe it was just, something that they had on. I never actually played Guitar Hero Aerosmith.
I mean,
I assume it's not only Aerosmith
no one
songs.
did.
I had Guitar Hero
is,
2.
Actually,
Only
Well,
Aerosmith songs?
basically.
It's Guitar.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like they did like Rock Band Beatles. Was only Beatles song for all of Rock Band.
Yeah, but that's the Beatles. I mean, I understand why he would think that they didn't make one of those for Aerosmith because that's a crazy thing they did, and it did not sell well.
Yeah.
No, listen back to our Aerosmith episode.
I mean, Aerosmith's great,
That
but
was-
I'm just saying, like,
that segment is mostly Pedro talking about how this is
How much
the
I
best
love
thing of all
Aerosmith.
time.
I mean, Aerosmith's
Best band in the
great,
world?
Yeah.
It's in, but yeah, the reason why I asked about the 2012 Super Bowl is that it was mashed with Flo Rida's Good Feeling in the Budweiser Eternal Optimism Super Bowl ad.
Okay, so I'm sorry. You asked if we remember one ad from.
I don't know how you guys think with Super Bowl and stuff.
I drink the whole time and had a good time. I don't remember anything from it.
I don't think I watched the 2012 Super. I don't remember the last Super Bowl I watched, to be honest.
I missed my first one in forever because we did Mario Party.
Yep. That
that was- I think that was
a
probably
good
the
use
last-
of our time.
It was a great use of our time.
Anyway,
The song.
I really like this song.
Yeah.
It is, to me, like, kind of the best of, like, mid-80s pop punk because there is, like, discernible rhythm and there's sort of that, like, gauzy synth feel, but it doesn't overtake the whole fucking song, which is, like, the thing that's so annoying about the 80s to me, is that so much of the music is almost good.
It sort of
and
bridges that.
this to me is sort of like, it feels like a little bit of a turn, which I personally like a lot. And I think for the reason, Pedro, that you stated, that it was sort of like, yes, it's in the background and you can kind of do anything to it. And that's sort of nice that it has that flexibility.
I think it's very much like a precursor to that like 90s alternative that
Yes,
we got into.
agreed.
You can see the skeleton, the bones of that kind of music.
It's
in
true,
this.
actually, and even like the music video, which is, or maybe we just watched a concert video, but like the performance is very like I see that. I see that like it's still very 80s, but it's definitely got some like Red Hot Chili Peppers bones
Sure.
to it.
Totally. Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that song by New Order, True Faith. I feel so extraordinary. That song.
I mean, this is
I mean,
like
that's
the Bud Light of songs. The key is drinkability.
I think it's a little better
okay,
than the
it's
Bud
better
Light
than the
songs.
Bud Light
No, wait, no.
songs because Bud Light's gross.
No, it matches that catchphrase of Buzz Light, not the actual quality of Bud Light.
Let's be
That's
clear. Okay, well, now that we've used this, I need to say the difference is drinkability is the most horrifying sentence about a food or beverage concept. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Bud Light, you won't gag on it.
No, like, I really want to just drinkability. That is not saying it is good. It is not saying that it is, food. It's just saying that
Bud Light,
it
you
is-
probably won't die from it.
Like, it is literally just saying, this is not poison. The difference between us and other things are that we are, A, not poison, and B, apparently a liquid. Like, we are drinkable. And I had a party in college that was the difference is drinkability party, where we paired
fun.
various like kinds of drinks against each other. So we had like Bud Light, and then we had craft beer. We did sangria versus we called Skippy, which is a
Skippy.
I mean, sangria can be kind of a bucket drink, right? You can make it in a bucket. Skippy is the ultimate bucket drink. It is a 30 rack of PBR, a handle of vodka, and an entire container of Country Time lemonade, and it is inoffensive. Which is disturbing because every glass of it is many glasses of real drink. Anyway, I wanted to tell that story about the differences drinkability because that ad slogan is insane.
It's something.
Anyway, we can cut that out, but I just wanted to talk
No.
about
I don't like it. The key to the song is listenability.
it. It is definitely listenable.
Yeah. That's all I got.
I enjoyed it.
I'll give this a solid 4 henges.
Also gonna give it 4.
No. 3.6. It's fine, but it's not, like, good.
I will give this a 4.
Perfect. All right, that is She Sells Sanctuary by The Cult.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for the TV show segment, which will be our longest segment in TV history. Just kidding, it's The Lost Prince. Who gives a shit?
Expect a masterpiece. War changes everything for the royal families of Europe.
If all the pieces on which everything was built are removed, then what?
You must prepare yourself.
The true story of an extraordinary child living in extraordinary times.
Why is everybody so sad? You've been fighting at the war too much. You'll still hear funny old things.
The Lost Prince.
Join us Sunday night at 9.
The Lost Prince. Did you guys watch it?
No.
Nope. Okay. This is a British miniseries. Shocker.
Whoa.
It's about royals.
And it'll never be royals.
Like the Crown Royals?
No. The Crown's interesting and dynamic. This is
But
not
those
that.
royals, right?
They are British.
Yeah, this is about Prince John, who is a child of King George V and Queen Mary. This is all turn of the century stuff. But this is the Lost Prince because people don't talk about him because he had epilepsy and was kind of hidden from the world because he had epilepsy and would keep like having seizures, and they go like, well, not going to have this, and just kind of like learn things in private with his very nice nanny, and died young. That is a story that's worth like a really like well done piece in the New Yorker. As a 3-hour film with no good kid actors, it's a fucking slog.
It's terrible.
It is such a boring movie / miniseries / however they distribute it this time, that it is. I'm not shocked that the guy who wrote it also directed it, because he's not like killing any of his darlings. Every scene is so similar to the one before it. There's no real change. There's no real kind of like characterization for a lot of these people. A lot of the movie is just like people like looking sad towards the kid, and then
That's fun.
3 hours, and it's just really like boring. You have some good actors in it. You have some really good actors like Miranda Richardson, and you got Michael Gambon for a little bit, Bill Nighy, and you have the very kind of underrated Gina McGee. But boy, like this does not matter at all. So like people think of like what is a boring like PBS parody of like what a British thing is, they'll think of this. But like it's so of course it won the Emmy for best miniseries, which is insane. And
do they also have to submit like one episode? Is that how that works?
No, with the miniseries category, they would do the whole collection. But again, the Emmys aren't great. So I was looking at the history of this category. And I think the next year, Treme Season 4 and Luther Season 3 were nominated as miniseries.
I mean, that's fair, right?
Why?
Why not?
They're Season 3 of a TV show.
Oh.
Miniseries,
I could see Luther. Maybe not so much Treme.
they just were shorter seasons, but they still were like the sequel to the thing beforehand.
I'm not going to be mad that Luther got nominated.
It could be nominated in drama.
Was it?
No, it was up for miniseries. The point is, this is so unbelievably boring. Two henges. And that's it for episode 155.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. We're going to do this again next week.
We do tend to.
We are.
Here we go. Just many more 100 episodes to go.
We're going to do fine.
But next week is episode 156, and we're viewing the something number.
Is it your job to know that?
Forgot to make the rundown.
We're doing
it's not in my email.
Right?
Nope, that's the episode number.
Oh, got it. Yep.
But yeah, they are the somethings. And what are they?
Nope. The answer is we're at episode 156, right?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is it doesn't say in your goddamn email.
That's what I just said.
That's something you should probably start adding.
Yeah, apparently.
Luckily, we have other documents, and it's fine. You guys all want to know. It's number 854.
854.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they are the following things.
We're watching the piano, and I'm so excited to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. The album is In It for the Money by Supergrass.
The song is Between the Bars by Elliott Smith.
That's one of my favorite songs.
Aww.
Yeah.
And we have also one of the happiest shows of all time.
It's true.
That should be as boring as The Lost Prince.
But it's not.
But it isn't. It's the Great British Bake Off.
Yay!
Hell yeah.
Yay.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Well, we'll do that. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome selection. And so, yeah, check back next episode for all of that. Until then, go to theartofmore.com. Leave us a comment about anything that you thought about this episode. Yep. Are you a secret Lost Prince defender? Probably not.
No one. There's no one.
Do you have Stalker theories? We prefer that over Lost Prince discussion. Also, check out other podcasts there, including Let's Take 5, which it's having a weird schedule for us last few episodes, guys. Sorry about that, but it is very much on the verge of ending. I think There Will Be Blood will come out tomorrow. Either way, many more episodes before that, including, like I said, the episode on Stalker for episode 75 of that. But yeah, they'll be wrapping up in 2 episodes. Ad Absurdum will be back in May with something really cool. So check out all those past episodes. And yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to plug anything? I always feel like...
Nah.
Venom.
You want to still plug Venom?
Venom.
I'm still plugging Venom. It's on Netflix now, right?
It's on Stars.
It's on Stars. Venom. Watch it.
Okay. Cool. Might be doing superhero movies for like a bit. No more superhero things.
Okay.
But yeah. Until next week, I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm JC.
And I'm Pedro.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.